Hello, my name is Jason Shapiro, and I'm here today to talk to you about Intertext's Complete Ajax for Java. So let's start with the course objectives. First and foremost, what you're going to learn is that Ajax is not a single technology. Instead, Ajax is an umbrella of many different technologies. So you'll understand the relationship between these different protocols that comprise what we call Ajax. You'll learn the difference between synchronous and asynchronous requests, and by doing that, you'll learn how to actually code that through JavaScript. In JavaScript, we use what's known as an XML HTTP request object to make asynchronous requests for the behalf of the web page. Anyone that's been coding for the web for some time knows that one of the biggest problems that we have is trying to get our pages to look and work in the same way with different browsers. So we'll talk about some best practices in cross-browser coding, especially as it relates to Ajax. Whenever you experience a problem with a web page, one way that you're able to solve it is to look at the source of that web page and try to see if you can figure out what's going on. Now that only works with synchronous requests, or rather the first web page that's loaded into that browser. Any subsequent web page that's loaded via Ajax is going to require different tools. So we'll talk about those tools: error consoles, HTTP inspectors, and JavaScript debuggers for the purpose of debugging and fixing your web pages. You'll develop a proficiency with the document object model, that's the DOM API, in building dynamic GUIs. So whenever we get some information from the server, we want to place it into the page. And the way that we do that is by manipulating the document object model. And finally, we'll introduce you to one of the most popular JavaScript frameworks available on the market, and that's jQuery. So you become familiar with jQuery and its use in efficiently building Ajax applications. Once you're ready to attend the class, you'll want to make sure that you do have the prerequisites required before signing up. Now, although the actual chapters are focused mainly on web technologies, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, the actual web project that you're doing during your labs is Java-based. We want to show you how to integrate what you're learning with these Ajax tools with what you'll be doing on the job with your Java programs. So you do need to have a basic knowledge of Java syntax, Java servlets, and JSP pages. In order to get the most out of the course, it is important that you already have experience creating some basic web pages. So you should know HTML and XHTML. You should know what an image tag is and an A tag and an input, etc. Know how to create forms, just basic form creation. You should know what the action attribute does and what the method attribute does. Just real basic HTML form creation. Also, you should have some basic CSS, just the basics. You don't have to be a CSS expert, but as we look at some of the different technologies that are used in Ajax, including jQuery, you'll see that CSS syntax is used over and over again. So having that knowledge will definitely help you in this class. In addition, you should have some basic JavaScript. Now, you don't need to be a JavaScript expert. You should know how to create and set variables. You should know how to create and call different functions. You should know basic JavaScript syntax such as if-else statements, your conditionals, or any loopings, your fors, your whiles, arithmetic operators, Boolean operators, etc. Looking at the days, it is a 3-day class. Roughly speaking, we have about 2 to 3 chapters per day. So the first chapter is explaining exactly what is Ajax. We'll define the different technologies that are available that comprise Ajax, as well as the difference between synchronous and asynchronous web pages. Then we'll also look at a little bit of advanced JavaScript. Once you're working with Ajax, you're going to use a couple of different constructs that aren't necessarily common when you're first learning JavaScript. So we'll talk about those constructs. We'll talk about HTTP, which is the underlying technology that's used communicating between the browser and the server. We'll look at how we transfer data. So if HTTP is the envelope, which is sending information back and forth between the server and the browser, what do we have inside that envelope? We'll talk about what's typically used, such as JSON, the JavaScript object notation, XML, XHTML, and plain text. Once information's been retrieved, now we need to put it inside of the web page, and that's done through the DOM API. So we'll discuss rendering techniques. We'll also look at debugging, so that's where we'll talk about those tools I mentioned in the previous slide. And finally, an introduction to jQuery, a JavaScript framework. Our classroom environment, we'll be using the JDK version 6. We are using Eclipse Galileo version, Tomcat version 6. And the browser can be of your choice. Firefox and Chrome are preferred, but we also allow you to use IE8 in the course. So that's an introduction to Complete Ajax for Java. I want to thank you for your time and look forward to seeing you in the class.